Evan sat slumped on his couch, the familiar glow of the TV screen flickering in the dark room. He had spent another day doing nothing of consequence, scrolling through his phone, watching reruns of old shows, and letting time slip through his fingers like sand. His life had become a monotonous routine, and deep down, he knew it. But every time he thought about changing, it seemed easier to just let another day pass. One chilly afternoon, while wandering through the town, Evan found himself standing in front of a small antique shop he'd never noticed before. Its wooden sign was worn and faded, the windows covered in a light film of dust. Curiosity tugged at him, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he decided to do something different. He pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. The shop was cluttered with relics from the past, old books, tarnished jewelry, and peculiar gadgets. In the back, an elderly shopkeeper with twinkling eyes watched Evan closely. "Looking for something special?" the shopkeeper asked in a raspy voice. "I don't know," Evan muttered, his gaze drifting over the items. His eyes landed on a strange, old-fashioned pocket watch resting on a velvet cushion. The watch gleamed even in the dim light, and something about it drew him in. "That," the shopkeeper said, noticing his interest, "is not just any watch. It's a timekeeper. It doesn't count time like a regular watch. Instead, it shows how much of your life you've wasted." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Wasted? What does that mean?" The shopkeeper smiled knowingly. "Every time you spend an hour on meaningless distractions, the hands move faster. But when you spend time doing something meaningful, pursuing your dreams, connecting with others, the hands slow down. It reveals how much time you truly have left and how much you're letting slip away." Skeptical but intrigued, Evan bought the watch and slipped it into his pocket. As he left the shop, the weight of it felt heavier than he expected. That night, back on his couch, he pulled out the watch and held it in his hand. The gold casing glimmered faintly, and the second hand ticked steadily. He spent the next few hours flipping through channels, aimlessly scrolling on his phone as usual. After some time, he glanced at the watch again and was startled. The hands were spinning faster than before. The minutes were racing by as though they couldn't wait to disappear. Panic bubbled up in Evan's chest. He stared at the watch, trying to understand. Could the shopkeeper have been right? Was he really wasting his life away? He thought about his days, each one blending into the next. He couldn't remember the last time he did something that excited him, something that made him feel truly alive. The next morning, determined to test the watch, Evan decided to try something different. He dusted off his old sketch pad and began drawing, a hobby he had abandoned years ago. As the pencil moved across the paper, creating shapes and lines, he lost himself in the process. Hours passed, and when he looked at the watch again, the hands had barely moved. His heart pounded. It was true. The watch responded to how he spent his time, whether he wasted it or made it count. In the days that followed, Evan began making changes. He started reconnecting with old friends, picking up long-forgotten hobbies, and even pursuing new goals. Every time he did something meaningful, the watch slowed, almost as if time itself stretched to accommodate the moments that mattered. And when he found himself drifting back into old habits, the watch would spin faster, reminding him that life was too short to be spent on things that didn't fulfill him. Weeks later, Evan returned to the antique shop. The shopkeeper greeted him with the same twinkling eyes. "How's the timekeeper treating you?" the old man asked. Evan smiled, a sense of purpose shining in his eyes. "It's changed everything. I didn't realize how much time I was wasting, but now I feel like I'm really living." The shopkeeper nodded, his smile widening. "That's the thing about time. It's precious. Once you realize that, every moment becomes a gift." Evan left the shop that day, no longer afraid of time slipping away, because now he knew that as long as he spent his days with intention and purpose, the hands of the clock would move in his favor.